Have you ever been scared? Me too. Do you want to get scared again? Of course you do. Well, you're in luck, because I have just the thing for you. 3 very underrated spooky games that you can play this holiday season. That's right, we're having Halloween on Christmas, bitches. Now I know what you're thinking. No, this was not planned to release in October. I did not get lazy and give up before finishing the script. This was the plan all along. So yeah, let's get started. Afraid of Monsters was a Half-Life 1 mod created by Team Sykeskeller, released on December 24th of 2005. This game borrowed heavily from many popular horror titles at the time, such as Silent Hill and Resident Evil. I'm only going to briefly talk about the story and keep it very vague, because it's kind of hard to get into without going into spoilers. I also think you should just play it for yourself. Anyways, we follow our main character known as David Letterman, who's addicted to an unknown substance and is seeking help at the Markland Hospital. However, temptation gets the better of him, so David goes to the bathroom, pops some pills, and then shit gets pretty crazy. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna say in regards to the story. So, yeah, let's talk about the graphics and gameplay. I'm not gonna do a cool transition, sorry. Yeah, graphics. I'm aware that this game hasn't really aged well. However, the graphical limitations of this game kind of adds to the charm. It has this very realistic yet very uncanny vibe to it, and it really works, especially with the enemies. They're all very twitchy and anatomically incorrect. Sometimes you'll come across a face that shoots eyeballs at you. Yes, a face. And it's fucking terrifying. This sort of thing only works in a game like this, with very low poly textures and very limited detail, and it really just adds to the overall strangeness of the environment. Also, speaking of the environment, that's my favorite part of the game. I love how each area feels very lifeless and empty. I think you know where I'm going with this. Yes, it's very liminal. There, I said it. This game is one giant liminal space. And same can be said for the rest of the games on this list. But I'm gonna get to them when I get to them. Another thing worth noting is that this game is quite petty when it comes to ammo and health and flashlight battery. I blame this game for my survival horror OCD. Every time I hop on Resident Evil or Dead Space, I always have to check and recheck every single room to see if I didn't miss anything, only to find nothing. And it's Afraid of Monsters' fault. You have to check every single nook and cranny for batteries, health, ammo, whatever, because if you don't, you're fucked. You know, since I'm already going off on a bit of a rant, I might as well talk about what I don't like about this game, and, well, there's a lot. And what really doesn't help is that you will notice these problems in Act 1. Like I mentioned before, you are very limited on resources, so it's very likely that you will end up in the dark because the flashlight ran out of battery. This happens a lot during the hospital section, because you have to turn off the power to get past these set of wires, and if your flashlight runs out of battery, you're pretty much stuck in the pitch black. Now, this isn't necessarily a problem with the game, it can just get really frustrating. And to be fair, if you wait long enough, the battery will go up by 5, I think. So it is a little fair game. What's not so fair game, however, is that sometimes they throw way too many enemies at you. And this is one of my pet peeves with survival horror games, because it makes the game less scary and more annoying. And for me personally, it's hard to stay invested in the plot because I'm too focused on whether or not I have enough ammo for the next enemy encounter. Like this one section here where you have to press 3 buttons to open the gate. This is where the quick save feature comes in handy. If you are low on health and ammo, which you most likely will be, it's almost impossible to get through this entire section without using the quick save. God, and don't even get me started on the fucking platforming sections. Look, there's not much to it. All you gotta know is that it's bad. It's up there with Devil May Cry's platforming. It's not horrible. You'll get past it eventually, but it's a pain in the ass. Despite the gripes that I have with this game, I still can't recommend it enough. In my opinion, I feel like the good definitely outweighs the bad, and it's a really fun experience. And you know, I do need to be fair because this is their first game and it was on an engine from 1997. In fact, several years later, the team actually went on to fix these problems, and in my opinion, they perfected them in their follow-up game, which I'm 90% sure you've heard of. Cry of Fear came out in 2012, and it was actually really popular at the time. If you've watched PewDiePie or Markiplier around this time, you've probably seen a Let's Play or two of this game. Damn, Markiplier went from this
Gangnam Style
to making an OnlyFans. Feel old yet? To me, Cry of Fear, Slender, and Amnesia were the big three of indie survival horror games. Well, until 2014. But anyway, Cry of Fear. This game's fucking awesome. You should play it. It's spooky, it's got a cool environment, cool gameplay, cool bosses, cool enemies, cool music. It's just a lot of cool shit. And did I mention this was on the Half-Life 1 engine? No? Well, I did now. So, you're welcome. I know, dude, it's pretty crazy. It looks like a Half-Life 2 mod, doesn't it? Nope, you can fact check me on this. They did an insane amount of custom work, and it shows. As I mentioned before, they pretty much fixed all the problems I had with Afraid of Monsters. The gameplay is much more fluid. They added this cool dodge mechanic, which you probably won't be using often, but it's nice that it's there. They don't assault you with hordes of enemies. Resources aren't as sparse. It's actually a lot easier to manage your items now with their new system that was ripped straight from Resident Evil. You don't have to worry about your phone light running out. The only time it does is in a scripted section. Graphics are significantly improved. Faces actually have definition. This game is pretty much everything Afraid of Monsters wasn't. Also, a little fun fact for you, at a certain point of the game, you have to cut this rope, and since Half-Life 1 has no ragdoll physics, our good friend Andreas Ronberg kinda just said fuck it and animated the whole thing by hand. I know, I bet I just blew your fucking mind there, didn't I? Alright, time to talk about the story, and not spoil anything. Alright, so we play as a guy named Simon. After a little stroll down the street, he comes across a man on the ground asking for help. Simon tries to help the man, but he's then interrupted by a speeding car crashing into him. He then wakes up in an alley and proceeds to go on many adventures, such as apartment tours, puzzles in the park, communicating with a female, corn mazes, scrolling through Twitter, riding a train, going swimming, and much, much more. And again, that's as far as I'm gonna go, because you gotta play it for yourself. I cannot recommend this game enough. Once you finish your first playthrough, I highly recommend you check out the Batesies video titled Who is Simon? And then play the game again, because it gives you a whole new perspective of what's actually happening, and things will start to make a lot more sense. And as if it doesn't have enough replayability, the game has multiple endings, which you can unlock by making different decisions at certain points in the game. This game also has a handful of expansions, so you've got plenty of content after the credits roll. I can't really think of anything that I didn't like about this game, aside from this one section where you have to do a little bit of backtracking, and they're not very clear on where you're supposed to go. But, I mean, it's a really small issue. A lot of love was put into this game, and it really shows. Like I've said a million times, you need to play this. It's so good. It's free on Steam, so there's honestly no reason for you not to play it. Even if you have a shitty laptop, it should run. It's an older game. Alrighty, on to the next game. Gray was also released in 2012, and this time it was made on the Half-Life 2 engine, so there aren't as many limitations, and since it's much more advanced, they can add a lot more detail, but I'll get to the cool graphics after I talk about the gameplay and story. Now, this one's gonna be a bit brief, because there's really not much in Gray that the other two games didn't already have. This was also made by the Depressing team, not Team Sykes-Geller, so I won't compare it as much to the other games, because that wouldn't be fair. However, Stig Sitagian, the voice actor for Simon in Cry of Fear, also voiced the main character in this game, so there is that connection. Even the story isn't too far from Cry of Fear or even Afraid of Monsters. It sort of combines both stories and simplifies it. So you play as a guy named Gray, who's trying to find his way home, but the problem is, he's insane, and that's pretty much it. You do kinda get a better understanding of the story and Gray's character once you play it on hard mode and unlock the good ending, but I'd argue it's not really worth playing because, well, see, Gray suffers from the same problem as Afraid of Monsters, albeit to a lesser degree, because this game is a bit more generous with resources, but again, they throw a little too many enemies at you. In fact, there are even more enemies on the hard difficulty, which again, makes the game less scary and more annoying. In their defense, the game doesn't throw enemies at you right away if you play on the normal difficulty. It really takes its time to build up that first scare, and it works really well. But the same can't be said for the hard difficulty. See, not too far into Chapter 1, right when you exit the restaurant, not only does an AI-powered sex doll smack you around a bit, but you are also assaulted by at least 3 babies. And your only line of defense is this dull-ass knife that you find in the kitchen. Also, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but fuck these little skeleton dudes, they can suck my goddamn tallywhacker. There are so many times where I have encountered these little shitheads while I'm low on health and I can't get a clear shot because these fuckers won't stand still for 2 goddamn seconds, and then they jump out and get me in 1 hit and I'm dead. And it's embarrassing. Okay, it's not that bad. I am just kind of bitching. It's just a little annoying. Okay, something good. Oh, at a certain point in the game, you'll find this makeshift sledgehammer. Use it. This thing will obliterate enemies in 1 hit. You just gotta time your swing right, and then it just fucking launches enemies across the room. Alright, time to talk about the atmosphere. You knew this was coming. Out of all 3 games, this one by far has the best atmosphere without a doubt. And that's mainly due to it being on the Half-Life 2 engine. Since they have more creative freedom when building the environment, they're able to add so much detail now. The streets and even the interiors are very grungy and dirty. There's a bunch of trash everywhere, almost as if the town or wherever this game takes place in was completely abandoned and left to rot. This game really nails that feeling of being alone, but also being watched at the same time. And if I haven't made it clear enough in this video, I'm all for that shit. And that'll probably do it for this section. I know it was a little short and I apologize, but there really wasn't much else to talk about with this game. Other than that, you should 100% play it for yourself. Same goes for all 3 games. Even though I was a little hard on 2 of them, still, they're definitely worth playing for sure. Now, the 2010s were a really good time for indie horror developers to get their stardom, because not only were you pretty much guaranteed to get content made from your game by soon-to-be internet celebrities, but most of the AAA horror games at the time weren't really popping off. As much as I enjoy Resident Evil 6, I'll admit, it's just another zombie shooter. These games really filled that gap, and it's nice to see that it's sort of making a comeback, with Nexpo and Pyrocynical bringing more attention to these games with their videos, as well as the Depressic team just recently dropping Remorse the List on Steam, which, by the way, let me know if you want to see a video on that game. But yeah, those were 3 spooky games that you should play this holiday season. Alright guys, that's probably going to do it for this video. I know it was a bit rushed, and I apologize for that. I had to get this out before I leave for New York for vacation. One more thing before I leave. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm a part of this channel called Sloth Cinema, and we have a new project coming out on December 24th called The Sleepy Green Door, and I play the lead role. This is my first time ever doing a major acting role, so I'm excited and nervous at the same time. But regardless, I'm really excited for you guys to see this. It looks absolutely amazing. I can't thank Dalton enough for letting me be a part of this. It was such a good experience. And yeah, go check it out. December 24th. It would really mean a lot if you guys showed your support. And yeah, that'll do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you guys later.